In part 1 of this tutorial, we created an animation in Flash or Animate using motion tweens. And motion tweens allow us to set keyframes, and then the program itself will figure out all of the in-between frames for us. So we created a sun moving across the sky and a moon moving across the sky using symbols. Then we motion tween them. And we also used motion tweens to create the sky changing color. Now we're going to add to this. Today I'm going to use motion tweens to create parallax scrolling. Now the idea behind parallax is if we have multiple layers, we can create the illusion of three-dimensional depth by moving the layers that are closer to us more quickly than the layers that are, air quote, further away from us. An example of that would be in this preview for a video game. This is all done in 2D. These clouds moving across the sky, as they appear closer to us, they move more quickly than the clouds in the background, and then the large clouds in the back hardly move at all because they are very far away. And so we can use 2D to create the illusion of three-dimensional depth by using parallax scrolling. Also keep in mind that the ship itself isn't moving, everything's just moving past it. So these clouds are moving to the left, creating the illusion that the plane is moving. And that's what we'll be creating in Flash. So the first step is we're going to create a mountain range. And I'll want to do this on a new layer because everything that is motion tweened has to be on its own layer. So I create a new layer, I'll double click on it and change it to mountains. And I will get out a purple brush, let's do kind of a lighter purple here. And I am going to draw a mountain range. I'm just going to draw the outline of one, and I'm going to try to start like basically right on the edge of the stage for reasons that I'll talk about later. And I'm just going to kind of build. And I'm going way off of the screen here. And the reason for that is that I'm going to have to slide this using a motion tween to the left, and so I need a lot. And I want it to appear to move very slowly because this is my furthest away background element, so I'm going to continue it for a while here. If I hold down Shift before I start drawing, it will force my line to be straight, either horizontal or vertical. And so that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm holding down Shift and I'm building it across. And I'm going to close this off now and hit K for my paint bucket and then just paint it in like this. Now, because I want to create a looping animation that I can repeat over and over again, I need my very last frame of my animation to be the same as my first frame, so that by the time I get to frame in my case 144 here and it jumps back to frame 1, they look the same. And to do that with this scrolling mountain background, I need the end of the mountain range to look like the beginning of the mountain range. And if I come here and I select my selection tool or press V, I can do this by dragging a big box around just this first part of the mountain range. And I'm stopping right here. If you'll notice on the right side, I'm stopping right where the stage ends. And when I do that, because this is still a shape, it will only select the part of the mountain range that is exactly surrounded by that box. I also want to make sure to lock every layer that isn't my mountain range layer so I don't accidentally select something else too. And then I'm going to copy this. I do that by pressing Control C, and now I want to paste it, but I want to paste it where it is exactly. And so I can do that. If I right click, there's a paste in place, which is the shortcut key for that is Control Shift V. And when I do that, it'll paste another copy of this exactly in the same place as the previous one. And as long as I don't click off of it, I can now pick this up and move it. And I'm holding down Shift as I do so that it stays moving horizontally the same. And I'm going to place that right here. And then I can use my brush to fill in the gaps between those two stages. I'm going to hold down Shift here again. Just Control Z that, hold down Shift. And now I have a very long mountain range. Because it's all a single color and connected, if I just click on it once, it should select all of them. I can also just draw a big bounding box around it using the selection tool. And I need to convert this into a symbol, which I do by pressing F8. Pulls up my Convert to Symbol window. I'm keeping it a movie clip for reasons that we'll talk about in the next tutorial. And I'll call this one Mountains. And click OK. And now that mountain range appears in my library, and now it has the blue box around it telling me that it's a symbol. Now on that layer, it already extended that first keyframe to the length of the entire animation. Whenever you create a new layer, it does that. It just extends the frame to be the entire length. So I don't need to hold down F5 or press F5 to extend it. All I need to do is right-click on this anywhere on this extended frame and say Create Motion Tween. And now I can animate it. Now to create that illusion of forward movement, I'm going to slide this mountain range to the left. So I'm going to go forward to my last frame. Because it's light blue now, I know that I'm ready to motion tween, and all I have to do is move the timeline to where I want the change to happen and then make the change. So I'll hold down Shift again to force it to be constrained horizontally, and I'm going to drag this all the way till the edge of that lines up with the edge of my stage. And if I watch it now, you can see that it looks like from here that the mountains are moving. But if I hit Control Enter to see a SWF of it, which is only letting me view the stage, it will look like the mountains are moving, or that I'm moving. And because my first frame and my last frame are basically the same, I shouldn't even see the gap between them when it loops again. Now to create parallax scrolling, we're going to need yet another layer. I'm going to create a cityscape. I'll call this one City. And I'll lock every layer I'm not using again. Good practice to get into. And this time I'm going to use the rectangle tool to create a series of skyscrapers. I'll use a darker color. Just maybe even use my color picker here to just drag the color darker. And I don't want to have a stroke color. When I'm using the shape tool, it will try to draw lines around each of the shapes. Unless I click on stroke color and I choose the little white box with the red line through it, that means none. And now I can drag a series of boxes. So I'm going to just kind of try to make it look kind of random. And it doesn't really matter if I go off of the page. I'm not going to worry too much about going underneath because it'll be cut off by the stage underneath anyway. I'm going to try and kind of mix it up a bit here. And I'll go ahead and pause this. I'm just clicking and dragging the box tool to create a bunch of these. And I'm not going to go as far because I want this to move much more quickly than the mountains do. And so I don't need to go the same length as the mountain range. I'm just going to probably basically double the length of the stage with this. So I will pause this and come back after I've completed that. Okay, now once again I need my first frame. I'm going to go ahead and turn off that mountains layer and make sure that the edge lines up. I'm using the edges of the stage as my indicator for the end of something, just to make sure that I can do that loop again. So I've just gone a little bit past the edge of this. Once again, I can choose the selection tool. Now, because all those boxes I drew are the same shape, it considers them to be basically the same thing. It looks like I have a little bit of a gap here between them. But I can just drag a selection box that's the size of my stage again to select all those things. I'm going to copy by pressing Control-C, and then Control-Shift-V will paste in place. And then I can hold down Shift and move these to the end again. And I have my cityscape. Now I can select all of it, turn it into a symbol, city, and do the same thing again. Turn this into a motion tween, go to the end of this, and because it's not traveling as far, it should move more slowly, because that's one way we can deal with timing in animation is by having something not go as far, and that should create the illusion of parallax. And I can use motion tweens to add a lot more to this. If I want my night sky to have stars, for example, I could make another layer, probably put it down underneath the everything but the sky. I'll turn the visibility of the other ones off, and I'm just going to draw a bunch of white dots of different colors in here. On this layer, I'll call this stars, and I can draw a bunch of dots or use the star symbol. If I got out a brush, like a drawing tablet, I could use the pressure sensitivity. But I'll go ahead and add some different stars here, just clicking, and then I'll unpause it again. Alright, I deleted the larger white circles I created because I hated them, but now I have just an entire layer of, maybe I'll just take this all now, I'll highlight all that. I can expand it out a little bit to make it a little bit bigger, or maybe even just a little bit higher. And even though there's nothing, this layer actually looks like this, it's just a bunch of little white dots, there's nothing behind it, I can still turn it into a symbol, and it will keep all of the parts that are transparent because there's nothing on them. It'll keep them transparent. So if I select all of my stars now, I can press F8 again, call my symbol stars, and now because it's a symbol and it's on its own layer, I can motion tween it again, and this time I basically want it to be, we're going to say at the very first frame, back in the properties under color effect, I'm going to change the color effect alpha, which is transparency, of the stars to 0. And by the time it starts getting dark here, I want the stars to start becoming a little more visible. Actually, I'm going to set another 0% alpha there so that between the first keyframe and this auto frame, the transparency doesn't animate, it just stays at 0. And then starting here, by this point, I want it to be completely dark. Now, keep in mind I'm trying to click on something that is currently at an alpha of 0%. That's why I've locked every other layer. And then I just kind of dragged until I had it selected. And I'm going to turn the alpha up to 100% here. And if I want to change where a keyframe is, maybe I want the stars to start showing up a little earlier, I can control click, which allows me to choose just a single frame on here, and I can actually control click on a keyframe and pick it up and drag it to change that keyframe, to change where it starts getting darker. So now, maybe here I'll also set another 100% keyframe, and then it's going to fade out completely by the end so that it matches back up with my first frame. So now I should have and maybe what I can do is even have it rotate as it goes, and I can mess with the keyframes. I can always right click on a keyframe and clear it also, so maybe I don't want to do that keyframe until after I've gotten the rotations all figured out. So by here I want it to be completely rotated. And I can expand it out. I mean, there's all sorts of things that I can do with motion tweens. And so I want it to be larger. I want it to fade out at the end again. So now and I probably want it to not stop rotating at the end there, but these are all done just using very simple motion tweens. And as I add more tweens and more layers, I can make much more complex animations. Now, in the last tutorial I'm going to have for this section, I will show you how we can integrate hand-drawn frame-by-frame animation with motion tweens, how we can nest animations inside of each other. So inside of this moon animation and this sun that are already being motion tweened, I can also place another animation inside of it that will loop while it's doing its other loop. And so we can nest animations inside of each other, which we'll talk more about next time.